Okay. How many of you have been curious about blockchain and 3D printing and fintech in general? Well, I'm hoping that's one of the reasons why you joined us all today, because I've been curious as all get out. Most importantly, of all this innovation happening, what does it really mean for us, and how is it really going to impact us? And most importantly, how are we going to implement it? You know, where are we at right now with it? And not only that, but how about, do you know what's going on in your local community, in your own backyard with all these innovative technologies? Well, we're going to do a talk show, a very casual, friendly talk show style introduction to some really, really important local celebrities that are making these innovative things happen here in Columbus. So my first guest that I'm going to welcome up is Miss Kimberly Gibson. She's from the city's only and largest 3D printing production facility. Let's give it up for Miss Kimberly Gibson. All right, Miss Kimberly, how are you today?
I'm awesome, and I'm hoping this microphone holds out so I don't have to use my cheerleader voice, which I still have, by the way.
So, Miss Kimberly, tell me a little bit about what is IC3D and what do you do at IC3D Printing?
Well, IC3D Printing is a hub for innovation in Central Ohio. We do the largest 3D printing in Central Ohio, and we specialize in sort of the not car-sized and not desktop-sized, but like furniture-sized items. We 3D print, design, and consult on how to improve your business with 3D printing and how to incorporate digital transformation in your business.
So, what does that actually mean? What are you making? Like, what does that look like?
Well, that's the beauty of 3D printing, because you can really make anything. And I know that sounds silly to say. What we find ourselves making a lot of these days are things like car parts, obsolete parts that you can't get anymore that go on airplanes and lawnmowers and things like that. We also find ourselves doing really fun things like body armor for cosplay. Body armor, full suits that come from games. I don't know how many of you are gamers out there. Got to be a couple of gamers in the audience. I'm a gamer. And you're able to rip files from the game sometimes and build those suits. So we've had a number of commissions around that and do sort of 3D printed weapons that are fantastical. We are also taking 3D printing into the next generation of manufacturing. And what's exciting about that is that it's allowing 3D printing to lift up traditional manufacturing like injection molding, casting, and forging, those kinds of things that you use all the time. And infusing 3D printing so it accelerates the innovation cycle. You can create more quickly, and you can create a lot less expensively now. And so that's what 3D printing really does. That's the promise of it, that any one of you with an idea can come to IC3D, and we can help you figure out how to manufacture it and put that product out on the market.
Wow, that's pretty intense. I mean, I think everybody's pretty familiar with 3D printing, but to understand that it's here locally and it's happening and our local companies are actually implementing it, what about the industry in general? Like, how far away from us being able to like print up sandwiches in our house and like, like, I want to wear this today. I mean, I struggled with an outfit today for this place, and I would have really liked to have printed out my dream outfit. That would have been very helpful. How far away are we from that?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we haven't yet perfected the replicator that I think the Jetsons and Star Trek, but, I'm all about that, too. I would say that 3D printing is here at a certain level. You can print small devices. You can, do a lot of things now at home. You may have also heard that we're printing metals. Lots of 3D printed metals are being deployed in aircraft. So chances are, if you're flying on a Boeing Dreamliner 747, you are using a 3D printed fuel nozzle. So that's kind of exciting. GE's perfected that and gotten it through the process. There's some other things that 3D printing can do, and that is, you may have heard of advanced tissue biofabrication. Now that is essentially printing organs, printing new livers, new knees. A lot of different aspects of 3D printing are being used, where we use your own adult stem cells to 3D print a new organ for you. So those kinds of things are here now, today. And it is just a question of making them less expensive and pushing them out into the marketplace. The type of printing that I do, I was able to do this printing because the patents expired in 2009. So this printing that I do is now open source. And I know all of you folks here understand what open source means. And my company is dedicated to keeping a certain aspect of our business open source. We also produce a product, a consumable, for the 3D printer, which is like the ink for the printer, that is also open source. Meaning we've written a paper, we've posted it on GitHub, so you can go in there, you can see our process, you can see what machines we're using, you can see the temperatures, you can see the materials, the raw materials, you can see where they come from in the world, and then what comes out when we extrude that for you is a completely open product.
Okay, so say I want to be an innovative person and I want to do something, but I don't really know, like I really want to try 3D printing out. What are some things that I could say, okay, I see 3D printing where I would normally go do one thing, that I'm going to call up IC 3D printing and get it made for me? Like, what is the paradigm or the shift between what I'm shopping for, and I'm looking for things, I'm searching for things online, and I want something. When would I go to a 3D printer, and how can I engage with the 3D printing? Like, what does that process look like?
Okay, so I see what you're getting at. You're trying to understand if I'm going to print you a pizza.
Well,
or some cake.
Well, if you can, that'd be wonderful. However, I'm not judging. We can start with smaller things, but I mean, even just like I think for just general purposes, like why would I? What am I going to shop in a 3D printing facility for?
So there's a certain types of products that you can use now. Like you can 3D print shoes. So let's say you come up with a shoe design, whether it's a gym shoe or a stiletto, it doesn't matter. We have access to certain kinds of materials that will print that shoe. If it's a gym shoe, we have soft, flexible materials like your running shoes. We can use a 3D loom to loom that sock and print it just as it fits your foot perfectly. So those things are here today, and you're going to see more of that.
So can I call up IC 3D printing like tomorrow and say, hey, can you I have this great idea for a shoe. I've got like a sketch and I've got so walk me through that. What do I do? I've got a wonderful idea for a product. I want to make it. How does that work?
So the idea part starts with you. We prefer it if you come to us with a file, an STL file that you are ready to print.
And what's an STL file?
So it's designed specifically for 3D printing, and you can use that file. It can be transferred from other file types. So there's a lot of free software out there that does that. But really, the most important thing is that you know what you want. You have a design, and then we can help you refine it so that it's perfect for 3D printing.
So what kind of there's a ton of 3D software modeling tools out there.
Yes.
And are there kind of already pre-made things? So say I wanted trophies or something custom.
You can do trophies, toys, as I said, cosplay, body armor. Those kinds of things are really easy to find. More difficult things might be a replacement part for your 1960 Mustang.
But if you have a 3D spec, ideally you could transition in it.
Or I could scan it and recreate it in CAD and print it then. So anything can be done. It really, this technology all is truly unlimited at this time. What we're doing now is trying to increase the speeds and increase the fidelity and sort of the surface finish so that it looks more like something you're used to seeing. So it's truly innovative and truly exciting. And the thing that I love about it the most is that it is about the individual. And what IC3D really does, and the reason that we started this company, was to bring the power of manufacturing to the people. No matter who you are, no matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter. You have the power to be a manufacturer and a maker and a creator with 3D printing. And we view that as our mission, to expand human potential through technology such as 3D printing.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How many of you are ready to design something new? Do you have a prototype of something in your mind right now?
Yes.
All right.
How fun, right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. Let's welcome our next guest up as well, because 3D printing is just scratching the surface here with all of the innovation that we have going on in this wonderful city of ours. Thank you, Miss Kimberly.
Yes,
Let's
yes.
welcome Miss Mandy Bishop. So I don't know if any of you know about Smart Columbus, but we are, hello, Miss Mandy. We were fortunate enough to be the most awesome city in the nation and receive a $50 million grant. And so as part of that, we have Miss Mandy Bishop, who gets to take all that money and just go have a party. No, I'm just kidding. She's actually kind of in charge of making sure that all of that money and all of the additional funding that goes along with it gets utilized to make our city smarter. And so, Miss Mandy Bishop, what exactly does what is Smarter Columbus, and what is a smart city anyway?
That's a good question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So Smart Columbus, Smart Cities is an initiative. It's kind of sweeping the world, and U.S. was not the first to the location. From our perspective, I'm in the transportation space, so it's really using technology to increase opportunity and mobility to jobs, healthcare, all of the services that are needed by the population.
Wow. So what is your background? You mentioned transportation. So here you are running a technology effort. How did you get involved with that?
Yeah, I know. When Kimberly texted me to participate in this, I was like, why did they want to talk to me? Because I am going, and that's important because we're all going through in the I'm a civil engineer by trade. I'm a registered professional engineer. I spent almost my entire career in transportation and traffic engineering. So when I was approached to run the Smart Columbus program, I was already in a place where I knew I was going to need to transition, and I couldn't really envision what my job looked like 5 years from now at the company that I was at, and really what did my job look like 10 years from now in the entire space. And I was reading more about Smart Columbus, smart cities, and all of the technology that is being implemented in the transportation space, and I determined that I could either become irrelevant and sit on the sidelines and watch it happen, or I could go do something that was uncomfortable for me. So I took the uncomfortable route, and here I am.
Well, we're very glad that you are. So as a new woman to technology, what kind of technology compromises the program that you're running?
So when I came into it, it's important that I say that I'm a deputy director of public service, and we're responsible for the operation and maintenance of the city's transportation system, traffic signals, all of that. So the program was really viewed as a transportation program. It's really a data program. It's the Smart Columbus operating system, and the type of technologies that are coming online, first and foremost, are taking the data we're already gathering and putting it out there to be used in more important and influential ways, so that we're making data-driven decisions, not just decisions we've always made. As part of that operating system, we have 8 applications that feed it. And so we're seeing connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, new applications for multimodal trip planning and common payment system, truck platooning. We have a number of items coming on.
Would you like to share your
Slide.
Your slide?
Yes, that would be easier to speak from. So
So
go ahead.
go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that this is the Smart Columbus operating system. I came on board in July, and again, this program was really being treated as a transportation program with a data component. And I was brought on to make to observe and see how it was going and see if I could tweak things to make it better. And then when I really understood that this was a data and technology program, I was like, oh, we need to reframe all of this in the context of tech. So we reframed all of our projects recently in the last 3 weeks, 30 days, and we looked at it in the terms of the Smart Columbus operating system. We have 3 themes. We have enabling technologies, which is like the connected vehicle environment, which can lead to lots of other tech, and lots of other technologies applied in the same space. We have enhanced human services, which are quite a few applications. Again, we have the common payment system. We have smart mobility hubs, which will have transportation information centers for visitors or just residents using the CMAX line, the new CODA line coming on board. We have Mobility Assistance App, which is an application for the cognitively disabled that we've been developing, or we've been working with OSU to observe 2 different types of applications and see which one might be better to meet the user needs. And then we also have emerging technologies, which are driverless shuttles, as well as truck platooning. We're using a technology called Peloton.
Peloton, like as in Pelotonia?
Peloton as in 2 trucks creating a Peloton.
Ooh,
So-
okay.
But I think they stole that from the bicycling community, definitely.
So tell me about the trip planning payment system, that common planning. What does that even mean?
Okay, so the multimodal trip planning application, MMTPA and CPS, Common Payment System, they're originally kind of 2 different applications, but they're connected. But basically, what we want people to be able to do is go into one application and be able to plan multiple modes of trips. Say you want to go take an Uber to your bus stop, and then you want to take a Kogo, a bike share. You can go in, you can plan your trip, and then you can pay for it all in one place without going out to each of their individual applications. So that's what we're working to create. And there's quite a bit of interest in that.
So what are some of the biggest changes that we're going to experience as citizens as we're driving around? I mean, gosh, the city is growing so tremendously. They're building apartments on basically every single corner. I don't know if anyone's noticed the traffic picking up a little bit. What are going to be the biggest impacts that these things are going to have on us?
Well, first and foremost, the immediate impacts that you're going to see are more efficient travel, more opportunity for people to get where they need to go and access jobs, healthcare, education. We're actually we added a new project to our program in the last 30 days. We're doing the due diligence right now. Non-emergency medical trips for Medicaid mothers is not a well-coordinated system. It's not coordinated with the healthcare system or the driver. It's very inflexible. So we're working with Sidewalk Labs to figure out how to do it better so it's more flexible. So the driver can text the mother and say, hey, are you here? And she can go, no, I dropped my kids over at this address. You can come get me. Because right now you can't make that change. It'll inform the healthcare provider that maybe she's 5 minutes behind and doesn't cancel her trip. And that's important because in the city of Columbus, if you're Black, if you're African American, you're twice as likely to die before your first birthday. And prenatal care is essential to that. And that's one of the biggest reasons we won the grant, was that desire to solve that issue or move it into a better place. Other types of technology that you're going to see, you hit the nail on the head. What are we going to be driving around seeing? You may not be driving, you're going to be riding. There's a huge connected, autonomous vehicles, driverless cars are coming. And it might be 2050, it might be 2040, but there'll be a time where you won't be allowed to drive. You'll only be allowed to drive in very limited situations. So those are the types of changes that are coming. And the other thing is, you talked about all the cars around here. Traffic might become a thing of the past. Autonomous vehicles and the data that it produces, you may not need traffic lights anymore if we can sense all of that, use it in near real time, and put it back into our system. Traffic lights may be a thing. Traffic and traffic lights might be a thing of the past.
So what are some of the things that we can keep in mind while we're recognizing all these changes? I mean, how fast are they coming? I mean, that's a long way away. But until, what are the small incremental things that we're going to experience? And how can we prepare ourselves to experience that change?
So connected vehicle technology is here. It's already being implemented in Tampa, New York, and Wyoming. You will start to see routes in the city of Columbus. We're doing a deployment. It'll be 2019. And you'll start to be able to, your car is going to talk to the environment. It'll talk to it'll read the pedestrians, it'll read the vehicle to infrastructure, and you're going to start to see safer streets and more less crashes. You're going to have to really start to think about how technology solves your everyday problems and how you can access data to maybe determine what a user might need to build your business. So really, the biggest thing everybody's going to have to do is keep an open mind and be ready to change, because it is coming.
So instead of getting stuck in rush hour from the traffic crashes, then we might be delayed by something else. So being ready to accept that is going to be a huge challenge. All right. Well, did you want to share any of the other stuff that you had, or do you want to just wait till we open up?
I'll wait till we open it up.
Okay. Well, so thank you, Mandy. Our next guest that we're going to welcome up is doing some really amazing things. I don't know if any of you all, some of you had raised your hands about fintech. So we're talking about blockchain. Have you ever heard of something called Bitcoin? Well, our next guest, Matt Armstead, has, if we welcome him up here, come on out, Matt. He has created the city's only FinTech accelerator. Welcome, welcome. Yes, please give a warm hand for him. So Matt has done some really big things. I mean, tell us a little bit about FinTech 71 and what you guys do, because I'm clearly not going to do a good enough job at that.
I've been involved in the startup scene in Columbus for about 10 years. I've had a couple of different companies. I've failed at many and had a few successes. We've been able to parlay that into investing in startups. I've invested in over about 40 companies, all early stage concept. And when we were able to start doing this on our own again under Lumos, we ended up having conversations with the city and the state and Jobs Ohio and a bunch of others about creating, based on the strength of Columbus, which is financial services and insurance, and we have a bunch of other really great assets as a city, including specialty retail that is dependent on commerce capabilities. So through that process, through talking with Jobs Ohio, then going out and talking to the public and private sector, we were able to garner enough interest across the state of Ohio from the likes of Progressive and Grange and Huntington and Key, and outside of Ohio through acquisitions, Visa, Capital One, and a bunch of others that said, Ohio is very, very special in what you're doing. We have tremendous opportunity with over 300,000 employees just in the financial services sector alone, that there's a great brain trust of talent that should be creating new ideas and starting their own companies. So we took that premise, we received funding from Jobs Ohio, we received funding from the private sector, and within 6 months we launched FinTech 71, which is a statewide initiative, 71 being the interstate that connects Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. And we have people from outside saying, what the hell is 71? And we just say it's a road that's up and down Ohio. And we were able to get 25 sponsors. We were able to give companies from all over the world $100,000 for up to 6% in their company. That goes into an evergreen nonprofit fund so that we can keep doing this over and over again as we have successes through exits and other opportunities. So FinTech 71 has 10 companies. We launched that September 12th in New York City at Finovate. We have 50% of our cohort is actually international. So we have companies from Tel Aviv and Portugal and the UK and Ireland. 80% of the companies are from outside of Ohio. And then we have 2 companies from Columbus. So all of them have product, they have customers, they have team, and they're able to have very interesting conversations with partners like big banks and insurance companies and payments companies to advance their businesses.
So let's define fintech for the audience, right? That's a very big umbrella, and we're talking very, very large concepts. Can you define it just so that we know we have kind of like an even playing field of where we're starting from?
I would say that fintech is kind of the 2.0, whatever you want to call it, in terms of technology for banking. So if you look at insurance companies, for instance, you have a very traditional model through brokers and agents. You have traditional processes in terms of claims and accounts receivables and things like that. You have new companies entering the market like Lemonade that will process your claim within a few seconds. Right, if you lose something or your jacket got stolen or you got broken into your apartment or whatever. So they're creating new technologies that are enable faster process, a better user experience, new forms of payment. So it's very new technology on top of an existing infrastructure that's changing the way things are done, most likely faster, hopefully better. And we see that across a bunch of different sectors. If we look at it in terms of the types of companies that we look for, we are looking for people who are leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning, new forms of security and authentication. So if you think about all the types of people that are in opening up accounts or transacting, it's becoming more and more virtual, right? I don't have to go into a bank. I don't have to go into a retailer to open up a credit card. I can actually do it right through an app, right? And so that has opportunities for fraud. It has opportunities for very high risk. It has opportunities for a bunch of transactions to happen without knowing who that individual is. We're obviously seeing much more cashless payments, so much more digital payments. And so, people like MasterCard and Visa and a whole bunch of others are very excited about that, and you have others in the banking industry that aren't so excited about that in terms of the cash flow in a way that interacts, and that leads to things like Bitcoin and blockchain and a whole bunch of other things.
So, so let's talk about blockchain, because that's a pretty big deal in the industry today. I mean, there's so much potential to revolutionize it. Could you tell us how do you define blockchain in terms of the fintech industry? And then on that innovation, what are the issues of people adopting it?
Jamie Dimon from one of the biggest banks in the world, JP Morgan Chase, came out and said, blockchain's a fraud, it's bad. But if you think about it, it's totally enabling a whole new set of technologies and opportunities. I'm a huge advocate of blockchain, not from the Bitcoin standpoint. I think that's one use case. Blockchain is providing transparency. It's opening up the doors to new forms of interaction. You get to see a transaction all the way through from the time it originated through every dollar that gets spent. And so I was in New York, and one of the companies that was up on stage that was part of another accelerator was using blockchain for donations. And so when you give your dollar, that dollar went exactly where it was supposed to. And if it was broken up, you would see that 4 cents went here and 5 cents went there. So full transparency in terms of how money is being enabled through the distribution channel and ledger.
Hark, does someone hear accountability?
It's
Wow.
it's huge. We have a company inside of our cohort that's doing it for title insurance, which I think is one of the biggest scams on earth. If you ever paid for title insurance, it's like a 6% loss ratio. It's like, why the hell am I paying for this when 12 other people just got done paying for it over the last 30 years that house has been owned? So, that's a huge opportunity too. So, when you talk about almost 70% of the dollars that get transacted through a title insurance, that's like commissions. 70% of it's like commissions. So it's not like it's this high value thing that's sitting in the back and being this high pool of risks in case one of these things go through. It's just a bunch of people making a ton of money.
Well, so with that in mind, that might be one of the one of the reasons why there are not big fans of fintech. So when we talk about exposing these middlemen that are getting these commissions, how do you see that shifting the economy? Like, at what point, if we introduce it, will that cut them out and cut someone else in? I mean, how does it work? Like, what do you see kind of happening there?
I hope it creates a ton of new opportunities. So if you think of AI, and this is not just fintech alone and artificial intelligence, I think it's a beautiful thing when a computer can solve a medical problem, right? If you're talking about Watson or IBM and you're talking about getting the brain trust of the world and the smartest doctors and tens of thousands of patients receiving information into a centralized database or distributed database, but centralized in terms of its intelligence, then wouldn't you feel better going to the doctor knowing that the potential resolution to that form of cancer that you have is pooled together and that knowledge is available so that I'm getting the right remedy and I'm getting the right service and I'm getting the right, all of those things get played out. Otherwise, you're dependent on one doctor who went to one school and has had only 4 cases like this and then has to read extensively in order to get that insight. So in the same manner, artificial intelligence is doing that for customer service. It's like, I need to open up my account. I need to do certain things. all of that intelligence is embedded from tens of thousands, if not millions or billions of interactions on that same problem, and we know exactly how to handle that based on who you are, or what your account looks like, and whatnot. And that is an omni-channel approach to that. So I think there's just immense opportunity for disruption, and I also think there's great power for enablement. So if you're someone that can solve a problem for a lot of banks, go solve that, right? Instead of the bank trying to build it themselves, you've got a solution, and it solves a bunch of other people's problems, and all of a sudden you're a $100 million company with a 10x with $1 billion exit, right? That sounds pretty cool, right? So the reason I'm here today is like I want more women in fintech.
I was just going to ask
Yeah.
you a question. He must have saw that on my face.
We had a board meeting. We had Grange's board at our office, and we had cocktails, and then we got to sit with the board, and they're like, why aren't there more women in this cohort? And in Lumos, we're very proud. I mean, 40% of our portfolio over the last 2 classes are minority or woman-led companies. In fintech, it's much harder to find those individuals that are willing to take significant risk, to leave very good jobs, and take on something that, I went with one of my startups, I didn't get paid for 2 years. To do that and to be kind of the person that goes out and takes care of your family and pays your mortgage and
Yep.
all that.
Welcome to
really
my
difficult.
world.
Yeah, exactly. It's super tough.
Yeah, I did that 2 years ago, and here I am,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Kudos.
lot. It's a huge
Yeah,
sacrifice.
it is.
Well, why do you think it is so hard for women to make that? I mean, we talk about the obvious things like family stability and things like that, but even just for women in general, what do you think prohibits them? Is it the entry or the idea that they can make that leap into something different? I mean, what do you think that? Well, let's just use this as a personal question. What did it take for you to say, "Yeah, I'm going with this, Kimberly"?
Well, I put my life together in such a way that I knew I wanted to exit and a corporate life, and I knew that I wanted to become a creator god in my world, which means entrepreneur. We need another word. The French cannot own this word. Anyway, and I knew that, and so I spent a year getting ready, and I got a big house, and I have 5 people who share the expenses of that large house, and I don't have a mortgage, and I do volunteer work that pays for my car, and I just reappropriated my life. I don't get to buy as many shoes as I like anymore, but that's okay. I'm building a few $1 million business, and I'm supporting 4 families. So for me, it was a deliberate choice that I had to plan, and that's all it takes is a little bit of planning. And yeah, I guess it takes some guts too. Failure is not an option, really, and even if you do, quote, fail, what does that even mean? Failure means learning. Failure means meeting some incredible people, like these people up here on this stage, and many of you I haven't yet met. It means meeting you. And so for me, that was not a problem. I do not have children of my own, and so that made it a little bit easier for me. I just have a few dogs that require care.
Those are children too.
My fur
I think most
babies.
people consider them. Yes.
They're just a little bit less expensive. But yes, so that's what I did. I planned for it. And I took the plunge. And I picked good partners. Because you don't do any of it on your own.
Well, but in terms of even just technology, right? Like fintech itself can seem very overwhelming. Like, how do I get involved? What's the technology behind it? I'm a developer and I'm interested in it and I tinker a little bit, or but what do I need to really build and decide that I want to go forward with this? Like, what's a framework that I can get to, even if I can set myself up maybe in the next year, like I am so sick of this corporate gig, I just can't do it anymore, and I'm going to prepare myself for it. What should I be thinking about?
I'm going to say one thing that I think has helped me my whole career, and that's networking. And that sounds so cliche, but I got to tell you, the people you're going to meet here today could be the people that you go into business with tomorrow. It is so important for you to meet people who don't agree with you, who know things that you don't know, who may be smarter than you even in certain ways. And then find those mentors and find those people that can support you. And what I mean by support you is support your dream and hold that dream in their hearts alongside you, because sometimes when you're out there doing it, you forget. And it's nice to have a support network that helps you remember.
So what opportunities like today? I know, Mandy, you had mentioned some things about some opportunities coming up in Smart Columbus. What are some things, like, without having to just risk it all tomorrow, what are some things that are coming up that are, maybe not as risky but still challenging with the Smart Columbus initiative?
Yeah, so a couple things for us. We're going to be hiring. We're hiring a couple engineers, and I mean PE professional engineers. So that's also a topic for a later discussion. What does our job description of the future look like? Because it can't be a bunch of civil engineers with dirt degrees. And then we also have a couple procurements coming up. We have a fairly high MBE and female-owned business goal on those procurements. It'll be a minimum of 15%, perhaps higher, as most of our grant, we're supposed to have a 15% overall program goal. One of those procurements will be coming up in probably the next 30 days. We're working on the scope of work right now. And then the next procurement will be for IT services. And that procurement should be November, December-ish, so 60 to 90 days. The first procurement's for our product manager, so someone to serve as our product owner by proxy. And we're open-minded. We have nobody in mind. It is a public procurement, and we're looking forward to people pursuing it. So those are some opportunities that we have.
Fantastic. And so in terms of fintech, so you've already got, you said 6 companies in
Total of 10.
10 companies. So they're like busy churning out and innovating. How can we expose that, or kind of what they're working? Are you allowed to expose what they're working on? Is it private? I mean, how can we get women involved with that?
Yeah, we have like 5 major events through the 10-week curriculum. We had several hundred applicants from all over the world that we ended up narrowing down to like 30 that we did interview with to select the 10. We have road shows. We do them in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and in Columbus. We have a gala at the end of the program on November 16th where the community is invited and encourage you to interact. You can come use the space. Our space is a state asset, so it's right on the corner of State and High, so we're right downtown from the State House. You can see all the logos of all the big banks around. So we encourage you in. My email's matt@fintech71.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help you any way I can and introduce you to folks. And that's part of my role, is just making sure that introductions are made. What's beautiful about the international companies is that they're here versus San Francisco or New York or some of the other parts of the country that they could choose to set up shop. So we have quite a few of them looking for data scientists and engineers and project managers and customer service and heads of sales, and we have another company that's looking for their head of US, right? And they want just the best candidates they can possibly have, and if we're able to bring that talent to them, they set up shop and they grow their US base here in Columbus, Ohio. So that's what I get excited about. So the more that you engage, and I don't think that's a bad way to get started, is actually just get started with a startup. You can see the pains, you can see the highs and lows and the roller coasters that we live in, and those happen daily and multiple times a day most of the time. But I encourage you to do that, and that gets your foot in the door. You don't have to leave your day job. I think it's insane to do that. That hurts your financial well-being, your morality, your mortality, all the other things that come along with it.
It's true.
But I think you can start working on ideas. So carve 20% out of your day and just start working on your idea. Meet with people, attend events, look up meetups.
Yes.
The networking thing is key, and reach out to people. I've met so many corporate people like, what you do is so cool and it's so glamorous, and no, it sucks. I don't make any money, and I have a long-term opportunity, and I'm betting on the long haul. But I'm constantly looking for people that I want to interact with. I do it on LinkedIn. I do it in real time. I do it with a lot of people, and that helps advance my ideas. The reason I do what I do is because there's super smart people creating new companies that I learn from every single day, and I love that. And I get smarter, and hopefully I can add value back to them, and they get better, and I get better.
I just want to reaffirm what Kimberly and Matt have said. I'm sitting in this chair because of a network connection. Is a long-term friend that I've maintained that relationship with, and I got the phone call. They said, "Would you consider coming doing this?" And I was like, maybe.
And by the way, Mandy has a conference to go to for the transportation right after this. So instead of attending her industry trade, she did come to speak to you all today because she felt like it was a very important thing to do. So I really, really, really appreciate you very
Yes.
much for coming out.
I did want to say one other thing about 3D printing, and that one of the beautiful things about it is that the cost of entry is very low. And for example, you could buy a viable small desktop 3D printer for $600 at Micro Center right now. And you can get started, and you can learn. And you can learn how to manipulate digital files, and you can learn how to make things and what it means to do that. So the barrier to entry for 3D printing is nothing more than your imagination. It's truly remarkable that way. And the other thing about it is that it allows you to be part of the gig economy, because there's an international hubs where you can print things. People send you, you're part of a hub, a global 3D printing hub, and people can send you files and you print them, and then they come and pick them up, or you send them out wherever they are in the world. So that's the beautiful part about this digital transformation, that each of you can become a 3D printer entrepreneur overnight.
So do we have any questions from the audience? I want to give you guys a chance to ask your questions to the guests. I mean, I know I've been dominating it, but you are very curious too. Yes, dear. Would you like to hear? You can have my microphone. Oops.
I'll share mine with you.
Thank you guys so much for being here, first of all. My question is all around Columbus specifically. You always hear that Columbus is a powerhouse in the tech field. We're in the top 5. We are just behind San Francisco, and we are leading some of the biggest charges out there right now in the tech space, winning Smart Columbus. Why? Why do you guys think that Columbus is that way?
I think it's people like you. If we didn't have all these people that are showing up at these events and creating new companies and investing in technology, we have higher education system in the state that's second to none in terms of the number of engineers that we kick out. I think we have very large institutions that nobody knows that they're here. When you have Nationwide and Progressive, and you have the second largest location for J.P. Morgan Chase, and you have Huntington and KeyBank and Fifth Third, and you have Vantiv, who just made a massive acquisition in WorldPay, growing out of Cincinnati. We have the ecosystem to support new companies and new growth and new technology and new advancements. And I think we're one that's being underestimated right now, because so much money and talent is already in very dense populations like San Francisco and New York and other cities. But they see great opportunity, and I think whether you have Drive Capital making big investments, or you have companies like Accenture or ICC and some of the others that are here that are growing very nicely in this state and in other regions, there's just huge opportunity. And I think Columbus sees it, and I think we as investors and entrepreneurs see it.
Yeah, with the workforce, I think it's sometimes also just a little bit basic. The geographic location and the cost of living is here. You can really live affordably in Columbus. We still have a low-income housing problem, but ultimately, you can come here and you get a lot for your dollar.
I want to say from my work in regional economies, and Mandy's had some of the same experiences, there's a openness and a curiosity here that when I first moved here in 1995, I sat on the board of the Wexner Center for the Arts, the Young Professionals Board. That was unheard of. Living in Cincinnati, where I came from, you were never going to get access to those institutions. So what I find is here, there's an openness among the population with that Midwestern hospitality that says, hey, come one, come all, you've got something to contribute. That's the culture here. And our city leadership in cities all around the region, but particularly the city of Columbus, have fanned that beautiful curiosity. And so it's a very open place. That's the other reason that it's happening, I think.
Yeah, I will say that it's very friendly, and I think people go out of their way to help other people. And that is a huge competitive advantage for us. I don't like to play it's true. I just don't like to play the card that we're this low cost of living and all that. I think I fly out to San Francisco and New York all the time, and I know that there are a ton of people in this town that can go toe-to-toe with any entrepreneur in any of those cities. And I think we have phenomenal talent and great leadership and humility, and I think all of those things are great attributes.
Thank you.
We have time for one more. Anybody else?
We really appreciate everything we're hearing here. It's great. I've been in technology my entire life, and this is amazing. It was very different when I started out for women. So every step we make is great for everybody. I was curious about the stem cell and 3D printing. What company or area is doing that now? Because that's like amazing.
It's happening in Ohio. Ohio is really the mecca of 3D printing in the country, okay? Youngstown is where the America Makes Institute is located, which is the Department of Defense hub for 3D printing in this nation. I had the opportunity to work with them a few years ago, helping them get started, and I'm a member. So, having said that, at Ohio State School of Medicine, there are amazing people who are doing what it's called organ on a chip. So you basically you have a microchip, and you put the stem cells on it and tell that microchip what to create. And then you 3D print that organ from that microchip. And then there are other researchers at Ohio State in that same area, they're in the same office, it's amazing, who created a solution that is a 3D printable solution for human tissue that should be on the market very soon. So it's happening here. Children's Hospital has some unique technologies, Ohio State has some unique technologies, and the University of Akron is a materials hub for different composites, including human-related. So it's here.
The printable skin, is that going to be for burn victims?
Yes, exactly.
Amazing.
Yes. I'm so excited myself.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we'll have to close out. Go ahead.
Okay. Just a quick question. I have been to that FinTech event recently. So I just wanted to know, how are you trying to get big sponsors like, JP Morgan Chase getting invested, or the big companies getting invested in those initiatives?
I think the biggest thing for us is having conversations around collaborating with entrepreneurs and bringing really amazing talent to Ohio. You can talk about brain drains and where people go and all of that stuff, but at the end of the day, there is a depletion due to technology in terms of our workforce, and so we need to elevate our play as a state. And FinTech, it can apply to payments in healthcare, it can be in a whole bunch of different industries and solve a bunch of different problems. But I think their ability to collaborate and work with startups, I mean, essentially we're helping funnel several hundred companies down to a handful that they help select to partner with. So they get an intimate experience of seeing all the really cool things that are going on in the world, and we have the ability to bring them here to Ohio and work 10 weeks hand in hand with them, and we give them space for 6 months to hang out and grow their businesses. So that seems to be it. And then when you have a partnership with Jobs Ohio in the private sector, and you think it's about such a heavy burden in terms of the regulatory compliance factors, and our direct conduit into the Ohio Department of Insurance and others that says, here's something coming new. Don't sit back and wait for it to hit you. Let's introduce you to it before it actually hits and help make changes to the state in the way that we think about new technology and the way that we're disrupting ourselves. And if we're able to do that, then we become a much friendlier state to take on new innovations and new approaches. So I think it's a bit of a perfect storm. I can't say it was perfectly planned, but it's played out really nicely, where you have big companies and you have state agencies and you have regulatory bodies coming together and saying we're gonna be part of this process versus sit and watch it.
So ladies, are you guys really excited about all this opportunity? I am seeing heads shaking. So I expect that I will see you out at some FinTech events, yes? Yes,
Come around,
some 3D
definitely.
printing. All right, so we're gonna have to close, unfortunately, but these guys are amazing, right? Can you please give them a round of applause? So excited and pumped that they can join us. So next up, we have our keynote with the CIO panel. So I hope you'll grab some coffee and come right back with us. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.